All right, guys, welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Homefront Podcast. Before we get started, if you don't mind liking and subscribing to the channel, it helps us get bigger guests on. It helps just grow the channel. It really helps support us. And if you want to support us on a further level and you live in the greater Toronto, Hamilton area, and you're looking to buy or sell and you want to book a free call and just see how we can help you, you can click the first link down below in the description. And it's just a Zoom call. It's very easy. There's no pressure sales tactics or anything like that. It's just to get to know us and see if we'd be a good fit for you. All right, guys, so lots to talk about as usual. We're going to get into a little bit of housing stuff here. And yeah, hopefully we can chat a little bit and see what's going on. So we have the Vancouver election is coming up. So I believe it's between the Conservatives and the NDP out there. So any Vancouver people, the British Columbia, not Vancouver, any people out there, I wonder what's going to happen in that election. That'll be interesting to see. And also we have a Bank of Canada rate cut meeting or a rate announcement meeting. So this is what they're expecting, the Bank of Canada to do its own jumbo 50 basis point interest rate cut. So the Bank of Canada is expected to accelerate the pace of interest rate cuts with a 50 basis points reduction to the overnight rate to 3.75% from 4.25% on Wednesday. An underperforming Canadian economy had already pushed the Bank of Canada to lower interest rates earlier than most advanced economy central banks. So 3 consecutive 25 basis point cuts is what we've had that began in June, already in the books. Yet the economic backdrop has continued to soften and risk to inflation look increasingly tilted towards the downside of the Bank of Canada's 2% target. So we saw inflation come in at lower than 2%. So that's below the Bank of Canada's target. So that's why they're kind of expecting this 50 basis point cut. And what does it mean? So a lot of people are like waiting for this, like, oh my God, I can't wait for this to happen. That means that rates are coming down even more. Again, you have to look at the bond yield because the fixed rate is actually lower than the variable rate. And the Bank of Canada, their overnight rate is connected to the variable rate, which is now higher than the fixed rate. So you want to look at that bond yield. And the bond yield did come down under that 3% target. So we should see fixed rates also come down, just not by 50 basis points, which is what a lot of people think. So just a little bit of education there. But yeah, a lot of people saw the inflation numbers and they're like, well, it doesn't feel like inflation has come down. Groceries are still high, house prices still high, rent's still high, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, you're not wrong. Basically, the damage has already been done, right? Like inflation just it's increasing, but it's not accelerating at the pace that it once did in previous years. So central banks are getting more a hold of increasing price pressures, but with that being said, things are still a lot more expensive than they were pre-COVID. So just something to note. I think that the Bank of Canada is definitely going to cut 50 basis points at their upcoming meeting here. So I'm just getting a call. At their upcoming meeting. Because, yeah, they need to spur spending in the economy. A lot of consumers are saving right now and holding back. So that's basically what we're seeing right now. Now, kind of pivoting into what that means for the real estate market. So here's the headline here. Home sales rise after rate cuts. So home sales have risen, not home prices. So following the third rate cut of the year by the Bank of Canada, home sales rose by 1.9% in September 2024. This is the highest level since July of 2023, reflecting renewed activity in key markets like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. However, while sales are increasing, they aren't surging dramatically, suggesting that while buyers are returning, some are still cautious about affordability. A particular concern is that while sales rose, prices didn't follow suit as strongly, with national average sale price only edging up 0.1% from August. Analysts expect this slight boost in sales may not last as future interest rate cuts could lead buyers to delay purchases, hoping for further price reductions. Additionally, the current sales to new listings ratio indicates that a balanced market, but as inventory rises, there could be potential for it to shift in favor of a buyer's market. So those of you who don't know, balanced market is kind of what it sounds like, right? It's kind of a balance between buyers and sellers. In a seller's market, things sell like crazy. There's offer dates, X, Y, Z. And in a buyer's market, things take a little bit longer to sell. Buyers have a lot of options to go and see homes. And I'm kind of noticing that become more of a trend, which is nice, especially in Toronto, like our market for buyers, right? Sellers have been very spoiled and there's still this like crazy price difference that the seller want versus what the buyer wants to pay. So at some point it has to become an equilibrium. I do think that a lot of people believe that with rate cuts, more prices would rise, right? And it would spur more buyers coming back into the market. But really what it's done is it's almost like home sellers are waiting for rates to drop. So then they would list their home anticipating prices were going to rise. But that's not what happened. Just more inventory has come onto the market and more buyers just have more options, which isn't bidding up the price. Like you saw that year over year number, and that's across Canada. It's only 0.1%, which historically for real estate is really bad in Canadian terms. So, usually you always hear the 7% is kind of what you get on leverage money, which has been an amazing return in Canadian real estate. But now it feels like, we might be a little bit toppy-ish. So it feels like if more inventory keeps coming on without the buyer scooping it up, then at some point sellers need to drop their prices more, ultimately leading to price declines, which I could see happening very much so. But again, predictions suck. You don't know what's going to happen. Things can change quick. So I don't want to make any predictions, but I could see prices drop if we do see sellers continue to come on the market and want to sell their home. And if that investor pool doesn't start coming back to the market like we've seen in previous years, which I don't know if they will because the numbers just don't make sense. Prices and interest rates are just too high for the rental yield that the unit can get. So I guess we'll see what happens there. But yeah, what we're seeing right now is kind of the opposite of what people thought, right? At the beginning of this year, we saw rates were high, but sellers were holding on to their properties. So there was a lack of inventory. So we did have offer dates a lot of the time in the Toronto market. And then as rates started to drop, I believe more home sellers thought, well, rates are dropping. That means buyers have more access to equity and they're going to bid up the prices. But a lot of sellers came onto the market. We had a very slow summer, and sales have picked up a little bit in Toronto. But prices haven't quite seen that increase that everyone's so used to. So here's another headline here. Prices are still under pressure in Canada. So despite the increase in sales, Canadian home prices have remained subdued. With September 2024, prices are still 3.3% lower than the same time this year. This decline follows a long period of stagnation where prices have remained flat or fallen slightly in response to ongoing economic uncertainty and cautious buyer behavior. The lack of significant price increase is linked to several factors, including affordability challenges brought by years of high interest rates. Even though the Bank of Canada has reduced rates, buyers are taking a wait-and-see approach, which has kept demand from spiking. Some industry experts predict that prices will remain soft through the rest of 2024, but stabilize or even rise again in 2025, depending on how the economy and rates evolve. So it's interesting to see, right? Like now we're having this conversation of prices are potentially going to go down. You really don't have these conversations very much. It just feels like real estate in Canada has just gone kind of on this high trajectory. And what we're really noticing is two different markets, especially in bigger cities. The condo market is what's taking quite a huge, not a huge hit, but quite the decline. Like prices are pretty much flat and they've kind of lost all their gains from the COVID highs. And there's just a lot of inventory. I think there's at least 7 months of inventory in Toronto condos. So it's just kind of telling you the appetite for the end user isn't really condos, right? Like a lot of people are like, I don't really want to buy a condo. I'd rather rent one. And then investors like, I don't want to rent those because I've got condo fees. It's hard to get a tenant out if they stop paying. It's just the appetite for investment isn't quite there because the numbers don't work. And then the federal and the provincial government are making it hard on people to kind of make the numbers work if they stop paying. So if someone stops paying, it's hard to get them out. Now, there is a rule in Ontario where if the unit was built, I believe it's November 2018. I believe it is, just off the top of my head. I can't remember. But yeah, one of those timelines where you can raise the rent as much as you want. There's no rent control on that building once you took possession of it, if it was a newer build. So that could maybe spur a little bit if prices come down a bit more and rates kind of come down. Maybe the investor pool might consider coming back into condos if the numbers work. But it just seems like the appetite for investment just isn't there in Canada. And yeah, people can't just pull those HELOCs from their home because prices haven't gone up as much as they once did. There's not enough equity there for a lot of people to do much. They're just kind of saying, well, my house is basically flat if I sold it today. If I had to look at realtor fees, lawyer fees, land transfer fees, I'm just going to stay put for the next little bit. Usually people move every 5 years. We're not really seeing that. We're seeing people stay in their homes a bit longer now, which, isn't a bad thing. It's just, it doesn't have as much as of demand for the market. And I know a lot of realtors are feeling it too, right? There's 72,000 realtors in Toronto alone. And there's just less demand out there. So let's go into the next topic here. Rising inventories in major cities and weak demand. So rising inventory across major cities, particularly in Toronto and Vancouver, has fueled a downward trend in prices. More properties are being listed than sold, leading to an increased competition among sellers. Like I said, sellers are going to have to either look at reducing their prices unless they're in a hot neighborhood or very desirable neighborhood. There's not a lot of competition in that neighborhood. But if they aren't, and you're kind of in like a newer kind of cookie cutter area with a lot of listings, you're going to have to look at dropping your price. More properties are being listed than sold, leading to an increased competition among sellers. This is especially impacting high-end homes and luxury markets where price corrections have been more pronounced. Developers are also feeling the pressure. Higher financing costs, supply chain issues, and reduced buyer demand have delayed construction projects. This has led to more unsold inventory piling up, which further dampens market activity. In the coming months, the rise in inventory could put additional downward pressure on prices, especially if demand does not pick up. So yeah, just like what it said at the end there, if demand doesn't pick up, more people are going to come to the market. And what if a lot of developers and some people that I've spoken to, they're looking at making their developments and the property that they're sitting on, they're looking to make it actually just rental units. So they're not looking to flip them because there's no one coming to buy them. There's no one lining up at the sales center or anything like that. So they have to do something with these properties because usually they finance them on money that's higher than what the bank would, or it's not cash that they have in their bank account. So they need to finance that at higher terms through B lenders or different kind of lenders. So they need to make moves. So they're making purpose-built rentals, which isn't a bad thing at all. It just brings more rental stock to the market. But yeah, we're not seeing housing starts pick up like the Liberals once promised. They said they were going to build an exorbitant amount of homes, and that's just not happening, especially at these high interest rates. So kind of what the Liberals have kind of done is they made basement and garage conversions. They're supporting that. So to address Canada's ongoing housing crisis, the federal government has introduced a new initiative to support homeowners in converting unused basements and garages into rental units. This policy is aimed at increasing rental housing stock, particularly in urban areas where rental demand is high but availability is limited. The government will back these loans for homeowners who undertake these conversions, providing much needed support to renters who are facing increasing competition and rising rents. The move is seen as part of a broader strategy to make better use of existing housing infrastructure rather than relying solely on new construction, which has been slow due to high costs and other market pressures. The program could also provide income opportunities for homeowners while alleviating some of the pressure in overcrowded rental markets. So yeah, they're basically, the Liberals came out and they said, we'll let you pull money out of your home and we'll give you a loan to build a additional unit. So what kind of worries a lot of people is that if you pull out this home and the appraisal doesn't come through and you're looking to sell it or something like that, you could be in a negative equity position where you've borrowed so much money and you've put it into the construction of this unit, but a buyer isn't willing to pay that price, right? Because it's hard to build right now. Materials are expensive. The numbers don't work very well. So it is challenging. I mean, I know what they're doing. It all, it means well. You're going to have that ambitious person who wants someone in their basement. Not a lot of people do, and is willing to go through the time it takes to construct a home and, have contractors day in and day out. If people are working from home, they're going to hear it all the time. They're going to have to take some risk by pulling out the money, and then they got to get a tenant downstairs. There's a lot to it. It sounds easier than it truly is. It takes a lot of effort and mindset to get something like this done. So I'm not sure how well this is going to work. We'll definitely find out and see if it does provide more rental stock. But we are seeing laneway homes and stuff like that in Toronto that I find pretty cool that a lot of people are renting. And it just kind of increases the stock. And when we talk about rentals, we are seeing rental prices actually flatten or decrease in major cities like Toronto and Vancouver. The appetite for moving to these cities just doesn't seem like it is like it once was. It feels like it's falling a little bit. And I kind of see that being a trend going forward just because of how expensive it is, and especially with working from home. And I think we're going to see population declines, not negative numbers, but less than what we've seen. It just seems like that's what everyone's talking about. Even the Liberal Party is talking about it. Immigration Minister Mark Miller is talking about it, decreasing the number of non-permanent residents and students, right? They're really pulling back on this. And there's been a lot of drama out there with the non-permanent residents, the program to get temporary foreign workers in and working jobs for cheaper labor than what a Canadian would do. A lot of people are saying it. I'm not saying this, but they're saying that they're taking away jobs from Canadians, and it's putting a lot of stress on the housing market, the rental market, as well as healthcare and infrastructure. Like even just getting across the city is very challenging. You know, there's too many people on the roads, as an example. There's too many people who need healthcare, where the average wait time for seeing a doctor or someone in the ER is over 10 hours, I was reading. So I think we're going to see that change, which could put some pressure on the housing market if rental numbers don't start making sense and investors are very cash flow negative, or they're sitting on their properties longer than they want. They could just sell, and that'll bring more inventory to the market. The only thing that a lot of people are saying that could boost the housing market is just that, you know, if the bond yield comes down more, the Bank of Canada keeps cutting, and the rates just look really attractive to buyers, you know, first-time home buyers, or it starts to make sense to sell your home and move up, or starts to make sense to downsize. It's tough to see that prices are just going to skyrocket back to what they were during COVID. You know, some of these areas are down 20%. I personally just don't see it based off interest rates and where I think they're going. So yeah, I think the non-sexy idea is that real estate's just going to trade sideways for a little bit. It's not going to make headlines like it was. It's just going to kind of be in the background, and people are going to buy and sell still. They always need to, but I just don't see prices shooting up to the moon like a lot of people are talking about with these rate cuts. You know, we've had 3 rate cuts already, 75 basis points. You're going to add another 50 in there, and sales have ticked up, but prices are basically flat year over year. So we haven't seen the growth that was once promised from rate cuts. But that's kind of the pulse on the market. I find a lot of the time that I'll give feedback to an agent and just say, hey, you know, the house is, you know, X, Y, and Z, but you're priced high versus what, you know, someone else got down the road. And they say, well, my seller wants to test the market. They're just going to reallocate and relist in the spring. That's the idea, is that the spring market, they're going to get an extra $100,000. And I just don't think that's possible. I just don't think that's coming. I don't think you're going to see a 10% gain in the new year. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but a lot and that's what we're seeing. A lot of these houses that are sitting there 30, 40, 50 days, they just believe that, well, you know, prices are just going to continue to go up. Rate cuts are going to save me, and I'm going to get my price that I wanted. And I just don't see that happening right now. I think that the market's going to remain flat into the spring. I think sales will tick up for sure. I think that the number of homes will sell. Like, you're going to find that buyer and seller meet somewhere a lot of the time. But that's kind of what I see. I think the freehold market's going to do better than the condo market. I think that condo market will continue to struggle. Just condo fees, taxes, and the prices of a condo. It's a lot to carry, especially if you want like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit. Your condo fees can be $800-900. It's not cheap. So anyways, guys, that's just kind of the pulse in the market right now. We will see where it all goes. We'll be back next week to give you an update on what the Bank of Canada did, what happened in the BC election. And yeah, every day you're kind of sitting here waiting for a federal election to happen too. It feels like that, you know, Justin Trudeau's days are kind of numbered, and that a lot of Canadians do want that change with the Conservative Party coming in. And we also have the American election coming up with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. So that'll be interesting to see. I know people don't love talking about the American politics, but it will affect our economy, and we will see what happens and what change we'll get in the US, and then we'll see what change we get here. Most likely it's going to be Pierre Poilievre as a majority winner, but hey, you never know what can happen, but that's what the polls are showing. Anyways, guys, thank you for the support. Again, if you can please like and subscribe, and if you're thinking about making a move even in the new year and you want to chat with us, or whatever it might be, you're not happy with whatever's going on in your situation right now, give us a shout. We'd love to talk to you and see if we can help out. And that's all I have for this week. Hopefully Brooke will be back next week. She's been a little sick, so hopefully she feels a bit better. But yeah, thanks again for the support, and we will see you next time. Take care. Bye.